The King's Avatar, Chapter 1371 Endgame Preparation, Audio Source, whooshworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1371, Endgame Preparation. Translator, Nomiyami. Editor, Nomiyami. With Round 37's match, Luoji had truly become a protagonist. How about it? Feels pretty good, doesn't it, kid? Quote. After returning from the press conference, Wei Chen came up to Luoji and tousled his hair. It's great, Luoji said excitedly. MVP? Just a few rounds ago, he'd been worried about not dragging down the rest of the team, but now, he'd actually become the match MVP, the crucial piece in the team's victory. Luoji was truly thrilled, and even though the reporters had hounded him like wolves, he didn't really mind. All that mattered was that he could be useful to the team. Keep it up, your future is filled with light. Wei Chen said. Yes, Boss Wei. Luoji happily answered. Soon after, the other young players like Xiao Yivan and Wenyi surrounded him with congratulations, and Steamed Bun took on the role of a boss as he gruffly warned Luoji against becoming too arrogant. How good it is to be young. Watching Happy's vibrant young members, Wei Chen was filled with emotion. In Wei Chen's eyes, Luoji's skill truly wasn't all that much. The professional circle was overflowing with talent. But Luoji had what Wei Chen admired and envied the most, his youth. If only I could be 10 years younger. Even if I lost all the technique and experience I have now, and started over from zero, that would be fine. Technique could be trained, experience could be raised. Only youth once lost, could never be regained. Luoji still had the future. He had chance after chance to be useful in Happy's matches. But what about Wei Chen himself? Wei Chen lit a cigarette, and took a deep breath. For him, there was perhaps only this handful of battles remaining. One match left of the regular season. If they made it to the finals, if every round of the playoffs became 3 matches long, that meant 9 matches. 10 matches total. 10 matches. Even if he went on in every single match, his professional career would have no more than 10 matches left. Next season, Wei Chen didn't dare think anymore. If he stubbornly clung on, then he would only become dead weight for the team. Back then, why had he retired? Wei Chen suddenly felt regret swelling in his heart. If his 30-year-old self could still hold on now, then back then, why couldn't he have held on in the first place? Even if he had simply joined some random team, he always could have found a position. 6 years. Why in the world had he wasted those 6 years? As the young members talked and laughed, Wei Chen let out a sigh. They felt joy at making it to the playoffs in their debut year, while Wei Chen felt melancholy as he thought of his rapidly dwindling professional lifespan. Look at these young ones, how nice. Yishu suddenly appeared out of nowhere, slapping a hand on Wei Chen's shoulder. Fuck. Wei Chen hadn't been holding his cigarette securely, so when he was startled, it almost flipped into his eye, giving him a second scare. Just 10 rounds left, Yishu said. What? The fact that Wei Chen only had 10 professional matches left was, for a pro player, an extremely tragic and cruel thing. No matter how shameless Yishu was, he wouldn't deliver this kind of jab, would he? For him to say this. Were these the last 10 rounds for himself, as well? Was this guy also planning to retire? Don't regret it. Wei Chen finally said. Ha. Yishu only chuckled. All sorts of discussion emerged after round 37. The 5 teams struggling for a spot in the top 8 were the hot topic, of course. 100 Blossoms dropping 3 points to Tyranny before successfully counter-attacking. Thunderclap winning 7 points from Samsara, 301 earning a perfect victory against Seaside, all earned praise. and the final score of Happy against Windhowl was 6-4, relatively close, so they couldn't say one side was particularly disastrous. In the individual rounds, Windhowl fell behind 1 point and then earned 4 in succession, which was quite a strong performance. As for the team competition, Su Muchung and Luo Ji of course earned much praise, and Lu Hao became the only player in the crucial round 37 who performed terribly, and thus the sole target of critics. And even Tang Hao had expressed dissatisfaction over his performance in the post-match press conference by calling him a disaster. This only further supported the point. A few less professional media directly took this out of context. Tang Hao had clearly just been speaking fact that Lu Hao's performance in this one match had been too subpar, like a disaster. But these reporters took this to mean that Windhowl overall had met disaster, and described Lu Hao as cancer for Windhowl. Clearly, Lu Hao's performance in Windhowl this season had been fairly strong. The team trusted him, the fans liked him. Otherwise, how could he have become vice-captain and an all-star? But in this round, no matter how upright the media, couldn't find anything good to say about Lu Hao. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing but negative reviews. Lu Hao felt that all he had endeavored to build up over this entire season was collapsing because of this one disastrous performance. Next round, I have to redeem myself. Lu Hao grit his teeth. June 5, Season 10 of the Glory Professional League finally arrived at the final match. For half of the teams, this was the end of a season, but 10 teams would step onto a new journey after this. Some would go on to fight for the highest glory, while others would now fight for salvation. There were 3 matches in this final round that were attracting the most attention. Happy playing their home game against 301, Samsara home game against 100 Blossoms, and Tiny Herb home game against Windhowl. 3 matches would determine which 3 teams would enter the top 8 and earn the right to compete in the playoffs. 301, 100 Blossoms, and Windhowl couldn't slack off one bit. Every point might determine their ultimate fate. And because of these teams, Happy had to continue to fight as hard as they could. They, too, couldn't afford to grow careless. Let me go on. Quote, as Team Happy prepared, someone was begging to play in the match. But others all told him, rest, rest. Leave it to us, it's no problem, everyone said. Don't. I haven't played in the team competition in a whole month. Please, I'm begging you, give me the chance to keep my hands warm. Yishu struggled to obtain a chance to go on stage. Actually, for both round 35 and round 37, Yishu had originally intended to play. But everyone in Happy had very firmly shoved him back down onto the bench. WushOurWorldAudio.com. With all your experience, do you still need to train your hands? Tang Ro said. Right, if it's boss, he doesn't need it at all, said Steamed Bun. Rest, rest. Everyone continued to say, I still need this. Hurry and let me go on stage. Yishu shouted. Chen Guo was at a loss. With all of the commotion, she also couldn't tell whether Yishu really need to play a match to keep his hands warm, or if he was just lonely. Do you really need it? Chen Guo asked Yishu. Yishu was about to cry. How could I not need this? I haven't played in a month. Chen Guo looked at Su Muchung and Fang Rui for confirmation from those who had professional experience. Let's follow his plan. Su Muchung laughed. At last, Yishu began planning out the next round. He began by confirming that he would have a starting position in the team competition, which was instantly met by a room full of boos. This is an abuse of power. Yishu heard someone say this, and he began to question whether these guys genuinely wanted him to rest, or if they were trying to squeeze him out of his position. After that, they progressed with the planning. Everyone finally put away their joking attitudes and listened to Yishu's match arrangements seriously. 3 points. That will guarantee our entry into the playoffs. But we can't set our goal that low. Fight for victory with everything you have. Don't worry about 301 survival, said Yishu. Understood. Everyone answered. Let's start practice. Yishu waved his hand, and everyone began the tense training for the next round's match. The R&D department was also making the final sprint to the playoffs. Everyone hoped that they could complete equipment upgrades before the playoffs began. In the playoffs, one mistake could lead to a complete loss, and to suddenly switch to unfamiliar equipment in the middle of the playoffs wasn't a wise decision. The differences brought by changed equipment could lead to miscalculations or misjudgments in the middle of a match. To some extent, the playoffs were a competition of which side could make fewer mistakes. 36 pieces of pseudo-silver equipment, and the myriad manifestations umbrella has been completed. Do you want to upgrade now? Seeing Yishu come over, the R&D workers asked him excitedly. They were also looking forward to see their own handiwork equipped on characters to give the entire alliance a shock. Although the stats of the silver equipment wouldn't be displayed, the equipment level would be shown. The sight of Happy's characters clad in level 80 equipment, what kind of shock would that bring to the glory circle? Just thinking about it was enough to cause excitement. We'll upgrade after this match, Yishu said. Can there be more? For now, it'll probably just be this much, the R&D worker answered. Most equipment can't manifest this kind of complex, redundant structure. The R&D called the structure used by the level 80 pseudo-silver redundant edition. Quote, if they were simply making the equipment, they wouldn't need nearly this many materials. But to raise it to level 80, they had to forcefully add on more materials, while ensuring that these materials didn't change the original properties of the equipment. Many equipment couldn't take this additive modification, and these were the failed products that had no way of reaching level 80. The recent research of Happy's R&D had been focused on determining which equipment could be upgraded and which couldn't, and this process had used up a large amount of materials. Fortunately, because they were only aiming to make orange-level silver equipment, they didn't need as many rare materials. And there was always a surplus of dungeon materials, so they could almost always get them from the in-game marketplace. The rarer ones would be the drops from the highest level dungeons. But on the guild side of things, Wu Chen had coordinated teams to increase their acquisitions, and they were able to meet the demands of the R&D. Even as they continued their development of pseudo-silver, they didn't forget about their research of real silver, either. After all, they only need pseudo-silver for now. This batch was directly jumping to level 80, but when the overall level cap was updated to 80, it was unknown whether they could still use the method of redundant addition to upgrade to level 85. Only real silver equipment would be the true path to sustainable development. Happy could expend effort on pseudo-silver largely because there wasn't much conflict with the materials required for real silver. Because the two goals didn't interfere with each other, Happy could grab both. End chapter. The King's Avatar, Chapter 1372. Playing Too Honestly. Audio source, wusharworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1372. Playing Too Honestly. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Round 38 of the Alliance was rapidly approaching. Given that it was the final round, it was inevitable that there would be a of publicity surrounding it. After this round, voting for the awards of the current season would begin. The awards would be based on the performances of the regular season, with the playoffs having their own set of awards afterwards. Amongst the various awards, the one that caught the most attention was naturally the MVP award. There were many players who had been raised as possible MVPs, to the point that even Bai Shu, who had only joined 301 in the winter transfer window, was also part of the list. Other than that, there were Samsara's Zhou Zekai, Blue Rain's Huang Shaoshan, Tiny Herb's Wang Gxe, Tyranny's Zhang Xinji, and other all-star players were frequently raised as possible candidates. Apart from these players, there was the player with the strongest return to the alliance, Happy's Yi Shu. Team Happy's performance may not have been as outstanding as Samsara or the other powerhouse teams. But as a new team, achieving such results was already entirely unprecedented, and within the team, the role that Yi Shu played was something that anyone with eyes could see. If the alliance were to take into account Happy's difficulty in achieving such results, Yi Shu's inclusion in the list of MVP candidates was indisputable. If there was anything that was disadvantageous to Yi Shu, it was his continued ceasefire for the last 4 rounds. Missing out such crucial competitions would have a negative impact on his assessment for the MVP award. The MVP award was something they had various different considerations and factors. In comparison, some of the other awards that only looked at results or numbers were more easily decided upon. The King of Dueling title was based on the results of the individual competition. The award would definitely go to Yi Shu without much suspense, given his 36 consecutive victories in the individual competition. Looking at the statistics, one hit one kill, the award based on the number of killing blows accomplished within the team competitions, was already in Zhou Zekai's hands 1 round early. Then there was the Arena Star, the award based on how much damage a player had dealt throughout the course of the group arena competitions. Similarly, the holder of this title had been convincingly decided 1 round early, Team Samsara Sun Xiang. Other than that, awards like Best Partners, Best Rookie or Best Sixth Player were also like the MVP award, and wouldn't be decided purely by numbers or statistics, instead needing careful consideration of the various players' performances after the end of the 38th round. Everything was waiting for this final round. On the evening of the 5th of June, the 20 teams in the alliance gathered in 10 different teams' stadiums, marking the beginning of the 38th round of competition. In the end, the broadcasters decided to show the match between Samsara and 100 Blossoms. 100 Blossoms was temporarily in 9th place, and if they wanted to enter the top 8, they could either win 1 more point than Wind Howl or 3 more points than 301 in this round. In the previous round, after falling behind by 3 points against Tyranny, they had valiantly snatched back 7 points, lighting the expectations for them to produce a breathtaking performance in their away game against Samsara. The Glory community hadn't forgotten that Team Samsara's crazy streak of wins in the first half of the season had ultimately been put to a stop by Team 100 Blossoms. This final match would be Team 100 Blossoms' most important match of the whole season. In this final round, every stadium was packed to the brim, including the stadium for Seaside and Bright Green, the 2 teams in the relegation zone. Next season, they wouldn't be able to compete in this stadium anymore. So the heartbroken fans had come to accompany their teams in battle till the very last moment, even though it was already too late to change anything. At 8:30 in the evening, the final round of the competition punctually began in all 10 stadiums. In Happy's stadium, Yi Shu appeared in the individual competition for the 37th time, taking another shot at breaking his own record. This time, the player attempting to snipe his streak was someone who had garnered a lot of attention in the second half of the season, Team 301 Degrees Night player Bai Shu, hailing from Europe. The competition quickly began. Until the very last round, Yi Shu had persisted in choosing the same style of maps, clean and minimalistic maps meant for a head-on battle. The two characters loaded in, appearing at two opposite ends of the map. Bai Shu's knight character, Tide, was clad from head to toe in silver equipment. In this small map where sunlight was shining brilliantly, the reflections off Tide's metal armor was dazzling, and his shield, Silver of Life, had practically become a mirror. This map choice is a little unfortunate, Fang Rui said, sitting on Happy's player bench. Wait, why? Chen Guo asked frantically. It's too bright, it dazzles the eyes, Fang Rui said. Are you talking about the reflections from Tide's equipment? Chen Guo asked. That's right. In the context of glory, things like this will all become disturbances to the opposing player, Fang Rui replied. Chen Guo immediately felt a sense of apprehension. Losing 1 point was nothing to fear, but she really didn't want to see Yishu's streak of consecutive victories come to an end. In fact, she was still brooding over the fact that Yishu didn't play in the first round. That meant that he could at most have 37 wins in a row, not a complete sweep of all 38 rounds. The tiny bit of imperfection was extremely regrettable. As they spoke, the two characters on stage had already started to charge towards the center of the map. Boom boom boom. Yishu used Lord Grimm's long-range superiority to open fire first, sending 3 anti-tank missiles flying out. Charge. Bai Shu surprisingly didn't dodge, instead choosing to have Tide press the assault. His shield was raised in front of him, and all 3 anti-tank missiles exploded on it in succession. In a moment, Tide had left the cloud of smoke and the sound of explosions behind him, the gap between the two shortening in the blink of an eye. Tide's shield, Silver of Life, was shining brightly. On the large screen in the stadium, everyone could see from Yishu's player perspective, and all they saw was a field of dazzling radiance, similar to the effect from a Spitfire's flash bullet. Look! Fang Rui had long been watching Yishu's player perspective, and at this moment, he immediately pointed at the screen for everyone to see. Heroic leap. Tide leapt into the air, but the only thing that Yishu could see in his vision was a flash of brilliant light, and then nothing. Xing cut. Yishu used the skill to dash out. This was an instinctual reaction that he made based on his experience. When the opponent disappeared, no matter where he went, eventually he would want to continue his assault. At this time, the best thing to do was to keep moving, and figure out where the opponent was afterwards. Tide descended from the air, and Lord Grimm fled from his original position. The two of them had more or less completed a swap of positions. After Xing cut, Lord Grimm immediately twisted his body in midair, and the moment he saw Tide in his field of view, the myriad manifestation umbrella changed back into gun form, and Lord Grimm opened fire. Bang! A single bullet flew out. But this time, Bai Shu didn't have Tide use his shield to block the attack. This single bullet was the Spitfire's burning bullet, which would create a fiery blaze as it fell to the ground, something that the shield couldn't prevent. Tide jumped out of the way, dodging the burning bullet. As a sea of fire immediately began to spread on the ground, he had already stepped out of the range of the attack. Gatling gun. Lord Grimm used yet another skill, sending a torrent of bullets towards Tide. This time, Tide raised his shield forcefully, advancing under the rain of bullets. Tide's Silver of Life wasn't as large as the myriad manifestation umbrella's shield form, so it couldn't possibly shield his whole body. As such, Yishu adjusted the angle of the Gatling gun, attempting to send the bullets to the gaps that weren't being protected by the shield. Despite that, all the bullets were blocked by Tide, as Silver of Life's position was adjusted non-stop, unexpectedly blocking the Gatling gun bullets that were coming from continually shifting angles. "This guy!" Fang Rui exclaimed in surprise. Team Wind Howl's original lineup also had a knight, so he had a fairly impressive understanding of the class. Being able to use his shield in such a way to completely block Yi Shu's gunfire meant that his fundamentals were far more solid than normal. ATR this moment, in Yi Shu's field of vision, Silver of Life became dazzling once more. Evidently, they had once again entered an angle in which the shield could reflect sunlight. This time. Quote, this time, Fang Rui was bewildered. What is it? WuxRWorldAudio.com. Chen Guo frantically asked again. His timing of the sunlight was a bit subpar. Fang Rui expressed. On stage, Yi Shu slightly adjusted Lord Grimm's position, easily avoiding the reflection of the sunlight this time around, before continuing to assault Tide from a distance. He isn't doing it on purpose. Quote, at this time, Wei Chen spoke up. Who are you referring to? Chen Guo asked. Bai Shu. He didn't think of using his equipment to reflect the sunlight, it was actually all accidental. Wei Chen replied. Really? Chen Guo looked at Fang Rui, but he was deep in contemplation, so he didn't respond. This player from abroad seems to disdain these kinds of dirty tricks. Wei Chen said, do you think he's like all of you? Chen Guo snorted at Wei Chen, and then shifted her gaze to Fang Rui. These two played in an especially wretched way, with an innumerable number of dirty tricks up their sleeves. I'm looking down on him, can't you tell from my tone? Wei Chen replied. In order to win, I would be as unscrupulous as I need to be. These kinds of players who pretend to be upright and not use the tricks they have access to are the kind I hate the most, Wei Chen said. Chen Guo didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. This wasn't about pretending to be upright. Couldn't a person just prefer not using these kinds of methods to fight? Lose. He's definitely going to lose. Wei Chen cursed. That I can agree with, Chen Guo nodded. At this moment, Tide had already drawn closer to Lord Grimm by quite a bit, raising his hand and gesturing towards him. Provoke. Lord Grimm promptly charged towards Tide without hesitation, and sent out a collapsing mountain. Yi Shu straightforwardly used this skill, and Lord Grimm jumped up, sending his blade chopping downwards. Clang! An ear-piercing noise rang out. Surprisingly, Bai Shu had let Tide raise his shield to block the powerful berserker skill, Collapsing Mountain, before using his other hand to brandish his sword for a counter-attack. I have no words left. Wei Chen said. What is it now? Chen Guo asked. Couldn't he just have avoided this attack? Wei Chen said. Is using the shield to block not good enough? Chen Guo asked. Using the shield to block still costs HP. If he's able to avoid losing HP altogether, does he still need to be so unyielding? Wei Chen replied. He can counterattack a bit faster. Chen Guo's answer sounded quite professional. Her standard was improving. If he can't take the initiative from the counterattack, what's the point of counterattacking at all? Wei Chen continued to look down on him. After blocking Collapsing Mountain, Tide's counterattack indeed wasn't able to help seize the initiative, and the two of them continued to trade hits, countering each other's every move. That taunt usage was also baffling. This is a 1v1, and the opponent doesn't want to run away. What's the point of taunting him? Taunting him only results in close-range combat, but that's what Lord Grimm's good at, Wei Chen continued. Chen Guo was puzzled. According to Wei Chen's analysis, this Bai Shu was really full of problems. But looking at the match, he didn't show any signs of faltering when fighting against Yi Shu. In this match, she couldn't see any sign of who was going to win or lose. You'd best ignore him. Su Mucheng saw Chen Guo's bewilderment and laughed. They have completely different styles, so of course they can't stand the sight of each other. Is he playing too honestly? Chen Guo consulted Su Mucheng, and ended up being viciously stared at by Wei Chen, causing her to momentarily not dare to say anything more. In this confrontation, it's exactly this kind of upright and frank play that's needed to determine victory or defeat. Su Mucheng replied, "It's boring as hell." Wei Chen and Fang Rui said in unison. I believe that Yi Shu won't give him that kind of opportunity. Wei Chen said sincerely, "That guy has no limit to his shamelessness." End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1373. Peak Skill. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1373. Peak Skill. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Fight justly and fairly? Chen Guo trusted Su Mucheng's words more than Wei Chen. Then again, she really couldn't tell the difference between fair and shameless in a match. Crusader's Trial. At this moment, Bai Shu suddenly cast a powerful high-level skill at an extremely close distance. Tide crashed forward with a charge, his sword and shield brandished. Xing Cut. Lord Grim flashed by with a cold light. The direction of Crusader's Trial could be controlled though. The moment Lord Grim flitted to the right, Bai Shu had Tide cut across from the left. Charge and Crusader's Trial moved at the same speed, which didn't lose to Xing Cut. Even though the first stage missed, the second stage of the skill smashed towards Lord Grim. Charge. Yi Shu used another movement skill. Lord Grim switched directions, dodging the second stage. Colliding stab. Shadow clone technique. Slide kick. Yi Shu used multiple movement skills in a row in an attempt to escape from Tide, but in the end, he failed. Bai Shu's controls were extremely fast and precise. He immediately adjusted his Crusader's Trial with every escape attempt from Lord Grim. The viewers were dumbstruck as they watched these two characters shuffle around a small area in a blur. Yi Shu was clearly using a variety of skills from different classes, but by charring them together in a single breath, it was hard to believe that there were multiple skills being used. It looked like one smooth yet messy movement. On the other hand, Bai Shu was using just a single skill, so his movements were naturally smooth. However, he was the one reacting to Yi Shu's actions. Being able to stick so tightly to Yi Shu despite these circumstances was truly a terrifying display of technique. Multiple movement skills had been linked together in an instant. Sometimes, a skill wouldn't even complete before the next skill began. But after the slide kick, the attentive viewers noticed Lord Grim's skill bar. The first skill he had used, Xing Cut, was still on cooldown. Players had already figured out which low-level movement skills Lord Grim possessed. He had the Assassin's Xing Cut, the King's Charge, the Berserker's Colliding Stab, the Sharpshooter's Slide Kick, and the Ninja's Shadow Clone Technique. 5 skills on rotation was usually more than enough. But today, Yi Shu had been forced by Bai Shu to use all 5 skills consecutively, yet he still couldn't escape. The level 75 Crusader's Trial had a maximum of 9 stages. Tide had only used 5 stages so far and still had 4 more stages to call upon. This time, what high-level skill had Yi Shu added onto his Myriad Manifestations umbrella? Perhaps a teleport. People began thinking of the possibilities. However, those who had noticed Lord Grim's skill bar suddenly realized that apart from these 5 movement skills, Lord Grim also had Spike Trap on cooldown. If it was on cooldown, it meant it had been used. But when? No one had any time to ponder over this question. The pace of the battle was extremely fast. Tide had chased Lord Grim to the 6th stage of Crusader's Trial, when a sudden car sounded. Tide could still swing his weapon, but his feet wouldn't budge an inch. Spike Trap was triggered just like this. Everyone was dumbfounded. Besides those who had been paying attention to Lord Grim's skill bar, everyone else had been caught off guard. Judging from the position of the Spike Trap, Lord Grim must have placed it while slide kicking. Spike trap only restricted movement. It did not interrupt skills. Tide could continue his Crusader's trial, but he could only do it in place. Lord Grim jumped back nimbly, and Tide's attack could no longer reach him. Yizhu was just about to counterattack, when Tide's sword suddenly flew out towards Lord Grim. Spirit Guidance. The Exorcist's Spirit Guidance gave the ability to throw your weapon. Exorcists and knights were both priest classes and could learn each other's low-level skills. This attack had been quite sudden. Happy's home crowd cried out in alarm. Lord Grim promptly rolled bow, and evaded the attack. Grenade, Shuriken, Mechanical Seeker. As Lord Grim rolled, he threw a bunch of things at Tide, who had no way of dodging due to the spike trap. However, he still had his shield. Tide immediately crouched down and raised his shield, Silver Life. The grenade and Mechanical Seeker exploded on his shield, while the Shuriken was deflected. "See, dirty!" Wei Chen shouted excitedly. He wasn't talking about Tide and his shield, or Lord Grim's chain of attacks. These were far from being qualified. Wei Chen was talking about how Yizhu was having his Lord Grim approach while sticking close to the ground. When Bai Shu used his shield, he made sure to give himself an open line of sight. But with Lord Grim crouching down, the line of sight that the shield allowed him to have wasn't quite enough. He couldn't see the target, so he subconsciously lowered his shield a bit. Right after he did so, he heard a gunshot. Bai Shu reacted extremely fast and hastily lifted up his Silver Life again. However, he then heard a hit. Bai Shu looked down in disbelief and saw a bullet wound at his feet. This opening hadn't been there originally. When he raised his shield instinctively to protect his head, a small crack had appeared in his defense. To think his opponent could grasp that tiny opening. No, it wasn't his opponent grasping an opening. Bai Shu had clearly heard the gunshot before lifting his shield. In other words, the other side had shot at his feet, predicting that he wouldn't be able to see the attack and would lift his shield thinking it would be a headshot. To think there was someone who could calculate this many steps ahead. Bai Shu was amazed. He had only started playing Glory after going abroad. He had played in the European servers and then joined England's Pro League. As a pro player, he could be considered a locally born and bred European player. However, his homeland was still China, so he paid some attention to the Glory scene there as well. But because of China's mediocrity at popular sports like football and basketball, he didn't think very highly of the skill level of China's competitive Glory scene. As a result, he mainly followed the scene out of curiosity and didn't take it seriously. When Team 301 sent out a formal invitation to him, he had been both surprised and proud. To think I could receive attention from a competitive league on a completely different continent, it looks like my skill and fame is quite high. WuxaWorldAudio.com. Along with a feeling of intimacy for his homeland, in the end, Bai Shu was moved by Team 301's detailed plans for him, especially after knowing that Team 301's situation wasn't too great. Instead of disappointment, he was rather excited to be the savior for a team. As a result, he returned to his home country and joined Team 301. He began adapting to China's competitive league and helped Team 301 form a new tactical system. Much of this came from the strategies and techniques that Bai Shu had learned from his career in Europe. After combing these with Team 301, the team's win record improved drastically. Win after win, the spotlight shone on him. Bai Shu felt great. Sure enough, Europe was the superior region. After joining the alliance, Team 301 became like a fish in the water. They had originally been dozens of points away from top 8, but they quickly squeezed their way in a huge reversal. However, near the end of the season, Team 301 had been caught into an intense struggle for playoffs, a bit far from Baishu's goal of sweeping through the league. Baishu wasn't discouraged though. After all, he had only been a part of 301 for half a season. Both sides need more time to synergize to reach their peak condition. Team 301 had made a huge comeback within this half a season. To be able to do that was more than enough for Baishu. After his arrival, 301 had only lost to two opponents. One was Windhowl and their sudden improvement. 301 hadn't been prepared and lost. The other one was the Alliance's current number one, Samsara. Baishu very much recognized their strength. It would truly be quite challenging for Team 301 to win over them. Apart from those two though, the powerhouses in the Alliance such as Tyranny, Blue Rain, and Tiny Herb had all fallen to 301. From Baishu's perspective, those teams were on par with each other. Neither team was better than the other by much. Their teams were like so, the individuals were like so. Baishu hadn't noticed anyone who could make him feel fear. The so-called number one knight, Zubin, had apparently come from 301. But in their 1v1 match, Baishu won quite easily. He was nothing impressive. Finally, in this last round, Team 301 would meet Team Happy. Yishu had 36 won individual rounds in a row. Just this win record alone made it so Baishu could not underestimate him. After doing some research on him, he learned about his legendary history. But isn't he a bit old? Whether it was in China or Europe or anywhere else, the pro players were all around the same age. Yishu's 27 years of age was a genuine old general in any competitive scene. To let such an old general keep winning in the individual competition? When Baishu first came over and heard about his win streak, he had a hard time understanding. Then, he heard about the unspecialized playstyle as well as his strange weapon, which made him quite curious. At that time, he had made a decision. This Yishu need to be taught a lesson. However, Team 301 and Team Happy would only be meeting each other again in round 38, at the end of the regular season. It would only be then would Baishu be able to realize his long-cherished wish. During this half a season, he had personally watched quite a few of Yishu's and Lord Grimm's matches, and made ample preparation. That ultra-fast speed made many people's heads hurt, but wasn't he keeping up with it just fine? But in the process, he had fallen for a trap that had been placed who knew when. Then, he was hit by a bullet that had completely seen through his thoughts. So this is someone who 36 won individual rounds in a row. China's peak skill, end chapter.